Why nationalism is not good for the brain. Nationalism, for those who don't know, is the belief that because you were born on a specific patch of soil on this earth, that you are somehow better than the rest of the people on earth who were born on different patches of the soil. In other words, because you were born in America, you are somehow better than anyone who's been born in Denmark, or in Sweden, or in Kenya, or in China.
You go over to China. China. You take China. China. I love them. China. I have to have my China. China, because China.
I know China very well.
A lot of people mistake it for patriotism, and it's not patriotism. Patriotism is a love for your country. Patriotism is when you see that your country is flawed in many, many different ways. You just want to see the country do better. Nationalists don't see it that way. If we're going to talk about nationalism, we need to talk about why it's so dangerous. Because nationalism isn't exactly a bad thing at face value. I mean, of course, in many countries, nationalism has been what you consider like a social glue. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool for establishing and growing off of many, many cultures, especially when cultures are beginning to grow. Many, many wonderful traditions are growing off of the love for their country, the love for their heritage and the love for what they have already accomplished. That's not exactly a bad thing. What is a bad thing, though, when you're such a nationalist that you're pretty much blind to what's going on around you. A lot of these people, they go through what we call like cognitive dissonance, basically. They have a core belief, and in this case, it's their nationalist beliefs that their country is the greatest, and because they were born from this country, that they are the greatest kinds of people. So that's their core belief. And anybody who contradicts that core belief, whether it's true or not, that person will not only ignore it, but they will also try to rationalize it, and they will try to contradict it with things that they've either made up or things that they've heard from other people. Let's talk about America, because that's where I'm from. If I were to be a nationalist, I would be an American nationalist.
Political correctness! Fuck Islam! Fuck up! Fuck Islam! God bless Donald Trump! Good luck to you.
If you don't speak English and don't contribute, get out.
Our president has divided this country.
But I'm not, so whatever. America prides itself on freedom. That's probably the biggest buzzword we hear about in America, especially in American propaganda, is freedom. Red, white, and blue. Liberty, justice for all, freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, the freedom to bear arms. America does pride itself on these things, and honestly, the weird thing is that America doesn't do any of these things. In fact, especially in the last few months, I feel that America has been doing the exact opposite. We can argue that America's been doing the exact opposite for far longer, probably throughout its entire history. Let's talk about freedom of speech, and this goes back to a story I like to share about one of my heroes. His name is Grrl. He was with a friend of his named Judy Berry, and they were part of a group called Earth First. See, Earth First, what they were an environmental group. They were completely nonviolent. They either protested, marched, mind you, or they would go to specific sites that were going to be deforested by tractors and big heavy machinery. They would take yarn, and they would throw yarn on the tractors, and what that would do is that it would clog up the machines, and it wouldn't exactly damage the machine, but in order to fix it, you have to go deep inside of these machines, take a pair of scissors, and cut off all the yarn. And what that would do, most of the time, the companies would retreat because it cost too much money to waste a lot of time just cutting fucking yarn. They're not exactly a terrorist group, per se. I mean, they're just an activist group. They're not really hurting other people in the process. Now that we're equipped with that information, one time, they were driving to a march, and all of a sudden, All these random fucking people came from like around the corner or some shit. Like, you know, it was actually like, it was like news reporters, it was police officers, the FBI actually as well. It was like as if they were waiting right around the corner. They were saying that these eco-terrorists were trying to do a suicide bombing and blah, 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 blah. Several years later, they were in court, and it was discovered that the FBI was proven guilty. They actually set the bomb up themselves inside of those people's cars. They not only proved that the FBI violated their First Amendment right to assemble and speak peacefully, they also won $4 million from that. Where I'm getting at here is that you may say to me, well, you have all these freedoms to speak and to say all these things about America. No, by making this video, I am actually risking my life even. When you have blind nationalism, you turn your head to these very obvious and important things. Turning your head isn't going to solve the problem. You have to learn that America is a growing nation. It's like a child, you know, when the child puts his hand in the fire, you tell him no. Don't put your hand in the fucking fire, you dumb fuck. And then all of a sudden, he puts his hand in the fire again. I'm like, hey, what did I tell you? Now you don't have a hand anymore. Nationalism is what keeps the child putting his hands in the fire.